Go on, everybody. Welcome back to the LTQ Wrestling Podcast. I am BDJ. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying your week. We got a lot of wrestling to talk about with TNA today. Did not get to the SmackDown review last week. If you guys are looking forward to it, I apologize. I got put on the work schedule. I hate when they do that without even asking me, but that's the story for another day. So, TNA, they've been in the headlines. I made a few shorts and TikToks about it. A lot of departures from that company lately, and they've had a lot of that over the last 2 years. A lot of wrestlers just departing the company. I got a list right in front of me. I'll go over some of the names that have left TNA over the last few years, and there's some big names. And when I saw some of the names pop up, I'm just like, what is going on? Are they getting rid of people because they're ready to sell the company? Are they looking for new stars? They, just don't want to push these people anymore. Like, what exactly is going to the mind of TNA management? And it just seems like to me, ever since Scott D'Amore left, TNA has just went to the bottom. And, there's a lot of criticism for TNA over the years. They didn't pay talent at one point, the booking, everything that went on with them. And it's just, it sucks to see them struggling because I'm one of the fans. I don't root for TNA's demise. I don't, want to see them go out of business or shut down the company because it's a place for people to work. And they have made a lot of people stars who wouldn't have gotten that opportunity elsewhere. It's a place to go work where you might not get paid like you do in AEW and WWE, but you will get an opportunity to be featured a lot, showcase what you can do at a higher level. And we've seen a lot of people that have left. And, it's really a shame to see them having so much people depart. And maybe this is the start of something good for TNA. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I try to look at it through a positive lens. Like maybe they got some new talent they want to push. Maybe they don't want to have to pay these people who are making higher money. I know a few of them asked for the release because they weren't happy with TNA Creative. So there's a lot of possibilities, and I'm sure this won't be the last departure we hear about, the last departures we hear about. I'm sure we're going to hear about a lot more over the next few months. And so I'm going to go through the list of some of the names I found that have left TNA, give my thoughts on them, and if this was really a big loss for the company. So Mance Warner and Steph D. Lander, which I haven't seen a lot of their work, I'll be honest. I've seen a lot of them on social media. I know they were being featured at one point, and they ended up leaving. You had the Rascals, which Trey Miguel I talked about recently came back. He's re-signed with the company, with the other members of the group are in AEW. That was a big loss for them because that's your tag team and your mid-card division kind of all blended together. They're gone. Jake something or Jake Doyle, I believe he's going by in AEW now. He was a guy who they were pushing a little bit at one point, got hurt, came back, didn't really do nothing with them. He ends up going to AEW. Now he's in the Don Callis fan with like 50 other members, so he's kind of just there with that company too. But he was a part of TNA for a while. Sami Callihan, which that's a big one. Yes, he's been retired from the ring for a while, but he's a guy who was featured a lot when he was on TV, when he was wrestling. He was a guy who's been there for a while. He showed loyalty to the company. He even said he was hoping to get a job in TNA Creative. He got a message saying they need to go on a Zoom call or whatever. And they told him, like, yeah, we're not renewing or we're letting you go. So that was very disappointing for Sami Callihan. And he's one of them guys where it's just like, you're so loyal to a company to a fault sometimes that you think, oh, yeah, they'll keep me forever and they'll put me in creative and they'll have me work on the ring or do backstage agent stuff. And they just get rid of you. Bang, just like that. And it's so upsetting because Sam, you could tell he was really like upset about it. Like, really, like, y'all gonna do me like that. He even said like the backstage at TNA has been a little off and weird. So you gotta look at it through that sense. Myla Grace, I haven't seen a lot of her work. I know she's a very beautiful girl from what I've heard from other people who have seen a lot of her. Maybe she goes to AEW. I think she's actually in Ring of Honor or something, I believe. I could be mistaking her for somebody else, but I haven't seen a lot of her work, so I don't really got too much to say. Tessa Blanchard. Now, Tessa's a very controversial person. She recently left. They made her choose between them and CMLL. I think the WWE and TNA relationship had something to do with that. AAA and CMLL don't get along. They're working with AAA. You guys can kind of connect the dots there with that. But they told her to choose, and she chose CMLL for the pay. I think she likes living in Mexico. I believe her husband's from Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe that has to do with it as well. She said there's no bad blood. But, like, say what you want about Tessa Blanchard. She has a very controversial past with her being called racist and not really fun to work with and very not liked and very well not spoken highly of from other talents. Chelsea Green had said some stuff about her and everything else. But she was a big women's star in TNA. And You could argue she's the biggest women's star they've had in years outside of Jordan Grace. Like they haven't really had anybody on that level, and she's a heck of a wrestler. I'll give her that. She is extraordinary. The last match I personally watched with her in it was her against Jordan Grace. I believe it was Jordan Grace's last match in TNA before she jumped ship to WWE. And like it was an extraordinary match. Like Tess is a horrible person outside the ring, but man, she can wrestle. And she's a big part of what they were doing in that knockouts division. And now she's gone. So that's a huge loss. Steve Macklin, who was a guy I watched a little bit of in TNA. Obviously, he was in WWE, Forgotten Sons. He left, asked for his release, wasn't happy with TNA Creative. He's not a huge name to a casual fan. If you're not somebody who watched a lot of TNA, you're going to be like, who the heck is Steve Macklin? But he was a pretty big deal in TNA. He went there, got an opportunity to showcase what he can do. They gave him that platform. He put on good matches, had some good stories, and he made the most of it. Now he's a free agent. I think he'll have a lot of offers out there from WWE and TNA, or WWE and AEW. He already was in TNA. He said, I'm out of there. I could see him being a valuable veteran to have around. Maybe he goes to NXT and becomes like a main eventer there and is a veteran guy the young guys can work with. Something on that level. He's a really good worker. And TNA gave him that platform, but he just got tired of the creative and he wanted out the door. I do think Ring of Honor is a possibility since his wife, Deonna Purrazzo, is in Ring of Honor, I believe, still. So that's also a possibility as well. You always got to think of that because if you're in different companies, you don't see each other as much and everything. And so I think that'd go into consideration. Steve Macklin's a big loss for them, though, because that's one of their like main event guys. Tommy Dreamer, head of creative. He claims it was a mutual departure. But the way he was getting emotional on Busted Open Radio kind of showed it wasn't mutual. He was just kind of saying that to save fade a little bit. But like, very emotional. Has been a guy who's been very loyal to TNA over the years, has worked backstage, has worked on screen. He said the creative wasn't very good. He was the one running creative. Not sure if there was too many cooks in the kitchen like WWE has sometimes. Maybe TNA management wanted something else and he wanted another vision. I don't know. But like he was not happy about it. He wished TNA the best. Not sure if this is a good or bad thing for TNA, depending on how you view the product over the last few months. Maybe Tommy Dreamer was somebody they saw wasn't doing a very good job creatively, and they thought, maybe now is the time for a change. Road Dogg's been, rumored to be taking over that position. Maybe that's something they've been talking about for a while, and they thought, maybe the time's now for a departure. I think Tommy Dreamer's going to get a lot of offers from WWE and AEW to work in creative or maybe be a producer, an agent, or something like that. He'll be just fine. But it makes you wonder, though, like, why couldn't have TNA kept him on board of doing something else? Like you could always communicate with somebody like, we don't really want you in charge of creative, but we could have you do this role if you want or something like that. I don't know. It's a weird deal. Joe Hendry left a year ago for WWE. That was one of their biggest stars. That was written on the wall for a while though that he was leaving. Too big of a name, in TNA. Got very over with his entrance, and I believe in Joe Hendry and all that. So he wasn't really a surprise. Still a big loss for their main event scene. Jordan Grace ended up ditching them as well. Not I shouldn't say ditching, but left. She went to WWE. Hasn't really done a whole lot on the main roster yet. She was hurt. Hopefully she starts getting booked a lot better. She was a big deal in TNA. Her and Tessa were the two biggest women they had probably in that company for a long time. Josh Alexander, one of my favorites, was the guy who carried that company on his back for years. And he went to AEW, hasn't done a whole lot over there. I believe he got hurt or something. Had that bad spot with Kota Ibushi that got him hurt. He was in the Don Callis family, then he wasn't. It's just been a weird situation, but like he's another guy. Huge loss for them. And unfortunately, TNA is in a spot where a lot of these wrestlers get over, and TNA either can't afford to pay them what they think they're worth at that point, or WWE and AEW come calling. They're like, oh, yeah, here's your contract. Here you go. So Mike Bailey, another guy they lost, was in their main event scene. Him and Josh Alexander had some awesome matches against each other, by the way. Go back and watch them. They were fantastic. If you ever want to watch a TNA match, if you don't watch a lot of TNA, I'll tell you what, type in on YouTube TJP against Josh Alexander in an Iron Man match. It was one of the best matches I've ever seen in TNA's history. A lot of people backstage thought it was arguably the greatest match in TNA history. You can argue the Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles is probably up there, but it was pretty close. It was an extraordinary match. But yeah, that's another big loss. Mike Bailey, a guy they signed probably for 1 or 2 years, gave him a platform. He made the most of it and went to AEW. Leon Slater and Mike Santana, two guys who are still under contract as we speak. Mike Santana's deal is up in July. There's already talks about him going to WWE. They want him on the main roster immediately, is the report on the article. He's been the guy they pretty much put in Josh Alexander's spot of having the company on his back, being the top guy. Now he could be leaving. Leon Slater, the 21-year-old wrestling sensation, he's probably going to be walking out the door. So that whole list I just told y'all, and that's not even probably like everybody who's left over the last 2 or 3 years. That's just some of the bigger names. That's a lot of talent departing. Like that's a lot of big names in TNA that's left. And yes, you still have the Hardys, and you still have, Fabian Eichner. I think that's what he's going by in TNA. He's somebody they could potentially build around. But is it going to be another thing where it's like, okay, he gets too big of a name and he jumps ship? Like it just seems like it's kind of going to be a pattern. And maybe they're just a feeding company for AEW and WWE at this point. Like that just seems like that's kind of what they are. But it's like that's a lot of big names departing your company. How are you going to keep surviving this? Like I think TNA is still going to keep going as long as they have people to invest money in the show, and AMC has their TV deal with them now and everything else. But is it going to be a time where WWE just buys TNA and makes it like another NXT? Which there's reports going around now about TNA working with OVW and they have a working relationship and all that stuff, which there'll be like a developmental for TNA, and then this TNA can be developmental for WWE and AEW. It's just like a ripple effect, you know what I mean? But like that's a lot of big names departing. Mike Santana's your guy. He's gone. Josh Alexander was your guy. He's gone. Leon Slater could have been your guy. He's leaving. Tessa Blanchard was arguably your best women's wrestler you had. She left. Joe Hendry was over as hell. He gone. Jordan Gray's gone. Steve Macklin was a main event guy there. He's gone. I mean, who was left? Like, seriously. Some of these people asked out and some of them got released. I understand that. It's not the same thing. Some people wanted out, some people did. They just got let go. But, like, you look at TNA's roster with all these names on it, and obviously you got to continue to build up other people. But it ain't looking too good. And TNA's had a lot of times like this where we all thought, oh, TNA is screwed. They're going to go bankrupt. They don't have the talent. They have a TV deal and they have a guy who's pretty expensive. I think, what is it, Carlos Silva or whatever. So he'll keep investing money into it. But, like, if you ain't wanting to pay your talents what they feel like they're worth, and you're putting them in main event spots and you're not treating them well, I don't know what they expect to happen. WWE and AEW have all the money in the world. They could easily offer these people way more than TNA can, and 9 out of 10 they are, unless you're Moose, which is Moose going to be the next guy to depart. He's been there for a long time, Moose, but he's probably looking at this roster like, damn, like all my friends and coworkers are getting fired or asking out. Should I join them? Should I go try WWE or AEW? He's in NXT for a short period, but like it makes you wonder, like, what's going on with TNA? Like, what has necessarily went on behind the scenes? Is it a money issue? Are they gearing up for a sale? Is AMC telling them to get rid of some of these people? Is their contracts too much for TNA to pay at this point? I know the attendance has been very, very down compared to where they were when they were working with WWE. They haven't had the WWE relationship going on since they went to AMC. Is that still intact? There's just so much question marks around TNA currently. It's just a hard product to get behind, because when you watch the show, yes, you can, watch Ricky Sosa. Maybe he'll be a guy they start pushing, or Fabian Eichner, and the Hardys are obviously always going to be people the fans want to see. And you have some, Indy Hartwell there, and some other women like uh, Sonya Deville. I think she's going by Daria Bonetta now, her real name. Like, you still have some name value, but how long are they going to last in that company? They really only went there because they got released from WWE. That's kind of how it's always been. You're kind of like the last resort. Like, oh man, WWE don't want me, AEW don't want me. Maybe I should try, going somewhere like TNA. It's just a tough spot for TNA to be in, and I don't really know what the next steps are going to be necessarily for them, because there's not a lot of big names that are going to go there unless they really want to bet on themselves, which that's happened a lot. We've seen it with, Drew McIntyre. He went there for a while, and A lot of the big names that are in WWE were in TNA for a short period of time. And, without TNA, Joe Hendry wouldn't have got out there. Like, there's benefits to going to TNA, but there's also a lot of negatives of it. Like, how is management going to be? Am I going to get paid? Am I going to get a raise if I do well? It's just a lot of just wondering from talent. And I don't think talent want to be in that position. And WWE, ain't no better. You're walking on eggshells over there, too, with TKO releasing people a lot and everything else. But it's just not a good spot for TNA to be in. And I hope they get out of it because I've always rooted for TNA. I'm not one of them people that want TNA to just be done and go out of business. Like I said, I'm just not one of them people. There are fans out there who are like that, who, yes, TNA is struggling. Let's throw a celebration. Like, it's an extra place for people to work. Like, not everybody's going to make it WWE and TNA. That's just the reality, or WWE and AEW. That's just not the reality of it. TNA is another option for them to go to. And, it's helped a lot of people. So we'll see what happens to all these talents. Some have already went to AEW and WWE. Some of them are going to be on the way to those companies. But, like, that's a lot of your talent roster heading out the door. And we'll just have to wait and see. So let me know what you guys thought about TNA getting rid of a lot of these wrestlers. Do you watch TNA? Do you keep up with TNA? What do you think of some of the talent they released? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to check us out on Spotify as well at LTQ Wrestling Podcast. If you like gaming, I also have a gaming channel, me and QJ both, separate gaming channels, BDJGaming, QJBGaming. I'm currently doing a MLB The Show series, franchise mode series, I should say. So if you guys like baseball and GM type modes, make sure to check that out. As always, appreciate the support. Peace.